When you lose something, nothing's going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's a reality. Learning to accept that without resisting.
At that lowest point of my life, there was people around me showing me that they were there, that I was not alone, and that gave me hope. If you had to give advice to someone, that is experiencing loss, what would you tell them? Hello, guys. Welcome back to a new episode for the podcast. Today, I'm joined with...
Darling Jarquin.
And today, we're going to be talking about a very important topic, a topic that touches all of our lives, and it's navigating loss. So before we dive into navigating loss and what that looks like and why it is important, I want to give you an opportunity, Darling, to introduce yourself, kind of like what your profession is, a little bit of your background, and so the audience can get to know you a little better.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
Tulio. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity for inviting me. I do believe that these spaces or these moments are very sacred when we talk about things so important like loss and also for developing ourselves. So I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. So my name is Darling. I'm from Nicaragua. I'm currently living here in Florida. I'm 47 years old.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I thought we were the same age.
I know, right? I get that a lot. No, but yeah, I'm 47. I'm a mother of two. But most importantly, I think that I'm very passionate about life.
Mm.
I'm very much in love with the process of life. That is what brought me to start developing not just curiosity, but also a passion for knowing myself.
Mm.
So that's part of my background. I started learning more about myself through books, going through therapists, not exactly because I thought there was a problem, but I wanted to understand more of myself. I always had questions. So I started going to counselors and just get to know more about myself. And that's how I was introduced into the self-development world. First, I studied tourism and hotel management. That was my first major. And I worked in the hospitality business for more than 15 years.
Oh, really?
One of those things in life, and this is why I love the process of life because it's so unexpected.
Yeah.
I studied the bachelor's in hospitality, and just before finishing my first bachelor's, I was like, I don't see myself working in hospitality.
Mm.
So I was gonna just let it go and go for psychology because there was always this wanting to know more about myself. But I finished, and I'm like, my dad, he's one of my biggest mentors, and he's like, why don't you just close that cycle and just get done with that? And so I got my first bachelor's in hospitality. And then, without expecting it, I ended up working in the hospitality business for 15 years.
Wow.
From creating the whole design of a hotel with some business partners to actually managing the hotel with my business partners. And
That's incredible.
Yeah, those are the things that just happen to you, and I think they're written out there, and we have to be like aware of where life is taking us. So I was telling you about this passion for self-development. So after so many years of being in the hospitality industry, I'm like, but there's something more. There was always that wanting to know more of psychology and myself, and so through friends that were going through this personal experience of self-development, they spoke to me about an opportunity of becoming trained to become a coach, a personal development coach with John Maxwell. And I was like, I own some books by John Maxwell, but I've never actually read his books, So this friend of mine, he's like, well, this is an amazing program, and I do recommend for yourself, so you can get to know yourself better and you can help people around you. I'm like, okay, let me look into it. And then a week later, I have somebody else talking to me about the same program. I'm like, this is not coincidental. This is something that maybe it's meant to be. Yeah. So I pursued that training, and I became a a coach and a trainer in self development and leadership programs. And from there, it was just like, boom. It was like an open door. I just wanted more and more. And this was in 2016, and until now, I've been getting involved in certifications and just getting to know more and more. I am currently getting my associate's degree in psychology, which was actually,
Yeah.
lifelong dream. I am now currently getting the degree, and then I'm pursuing social work, my bachelor and a master's.
Well, that's
So,
incredible, darling. I mean, I feel like you have so much experience and so many insights to offer, and this is why I feel very thankful for you to be here today to give a little more insights to the conversation. But I wanted to ask you, what ignited that curiosity to, learn more about yourself, learn more about this process of life?
yes, well, I do think that this is something very personal
Yeah.
for every individual.
Mm.
In my case, my life process, and I'm sure that your life process has not been easy,
Yeah.
what people say easy. So we go through stages, right? And so when my oldest son was born, Augusto, he's now 26, I became very ill a month and a half after I gave birth. And it was a very difficult process because it was life threatening. So I went through several surgeries. Doctors didn't think I was going to make it. My baby was only a month and a half old, and I think that from having that, what they call that what do they call it, the life death experience,
Yeah.
for me it
Like
was
a
like
wake up call.
that wake up call. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here. I don't know why I'm here. Doctors were like very impressed that I made it, and they're like, medically we cannot explain how you lived through the whole process and you're still here. And so I think that's what actually ignited, that curiosity for, okay, there's a purpose in life. This is my life. I have gone through this, and that triggered many other events. So fast forwarding that experience, that was the wake up call, but I didn't actually go into like being intentional about, doing something about it. So fast forwarding 10 years,
Yeah.
I wanted to become pregnant again, have another baby. And so, but I was not able to because of all the surgeries I previously had. And so it was another very difficult process, through a whole year. I went through many treatments and unable to get pregnant, even though doctors were like, okay, now there's a chance that you can get, you can get pregnant with twins or triplets. I'm like, really? But, no baby. So we used to, as a family, we've always had this, I think it's more than a responsibility, this need for us to give back. So as a family, we used to go to this orphanage, and I used to, it was like I don't know, how do you say it in English, imang?
Un imán, is like a magnet.
Like a magnet.
Yeah.
So I used to come to where the babies were, and at one point, in one of our visits, I saw this beautiful baby there. He was very sick, and so I had this experience. I don't know, this connection that I couldn't actually pin, and so from there, we started, or I started visiting him every day. I fell in love, and that's the way our second son came to our hearts and family, through adoption. And so, but then that was another thing that triggered, this curiosity of personal development, because I didn't know how to handle the situation. I wanted to give the best of myself, but I didn't know how to. And so then I became very depressed after that situation, because I felt I'm not doing the best as a mother. I'm trying, but I don't know the way. So it was just like so many questions in my head, and I became very depressed. And to the point that I hit rock bottom, and in one occasion, I just didn't see it through, and I felt like, this is not enough. I'm not doing enough. And I tried to commit suicide. So for me, that was just like, and I remember that experience. My mother took me to the hospital because I called her up and I told her, this is what happened. I don't know. I took some pills. I don't know, what the consequences will be. So she came to the house. She took me to the hospital, and they did, the whole cleansing and everything. But the doctor that was there at the emergency room, when I was stable, he comes to me and he comes up to me and he's like, I know you. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so bad. He's like, I know you. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yes, you were here. You were hospitalized here in the same hospital, you know, 10, 12 years ago. You were very ill. Doctors didn't think you were going to make it, but you did. And now you're trying to take off,
Mm.
your life. So why? You had a second chance. And I was like, and I just started crying. And I was like, I'm a woman of faith. And I started praying. I'm like, God, that is so true. You're giving me another chance. And yes, I don't have all the answers to my life, but you're giving me the opportunity. And I started thinking about everything, every blessing and every challenge as well that I had gone through. And I think that was the point where I said, you know what? I really do need to know more about myself and find that purpose,
Mm.
live that purpose. And from there, that's where I started. Like I actually, took that first step, that action. So
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that very intimate story. Um, it's very impactful, and I think it also can be a good transition to the topic that we're going to talk about, which is navigating loss, because it's an experience that can ignite a lot of difficult emotions, and if we don't know how to navigate through those emotions, it can lead us to take certain actions that may not benefit us. What would you define as like navigating loss?
in my personal
Yeah,
experience, what I just shared with you,
yeah.
at that moment, it was, not being able at the beginning, when not being able to get pregnant again and have another biological son or daughter, child. But then having this beautiful opportunity that I was not seeing it as, yes, I recognized it as a gift, but I didn't really see it as I see it now. You see, now I
Mm,
see life not just transitional but transactional. So we transition from one stage to another, but during that transition, there are transactions going on.
mm,
I have to give up something. Either I give it up, from free will, or it's taken away from me. But something has to be given in so I can bring something back. And if you really think about it, life is like that, um, throughout our whole process. So at that moment, I I didn't see the I didn't recognize it like that until I looked back. And John Maxwell,
mm.
my mentor,
Yeah.
um, that he that's one of the things he says. You don't understand life until you see it as in a rear view mirror. You look back and you recognize, oh, this is what was going on at that moment. I didn't see it. And that really helped
Mm,
me because sometimes we're during our life, throughout our life, or navigating through loss, you're you're probably not going to see the whole picture clearly, because loss has to do with pain. It has to do with, and it's very different for everybody, but usually it does include pain. You know, different levels of pain, and when we're in pain, we don't see clearly many times. And at that moment, I was not seeing things clearly. But one thing that I think it's very important when it comes to navigating is, um, not trying to put that feeling aside or just under the carpet, or ignore it,
mm.
but acknowledge it. This is life. And while we are alive, we're going to experience pain, we're going to experience happiness, we're going to experience loss
Mm.
and gain. It's part of the whole process. So not putting it behind, or not trying to say, I can't feel this, or this is not right, or what would people think, that I'm feeling or going through this. Because sometimes when we're going through loss, we might go through loss in silent, which it could be very risky. It could be very dangerous for ourselves. Not letting everybody, not everybody, but others to know what is actually going on within us. So I think it's very important that we acknowledge the pain. A friend of mine, she told me something that it still resonates in my head, and she's like, embrace it. Learn to embrace it. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be painful, but embrace it because, as my father says, in life, everything todo pasa.
Yeah.
Nothing is permanent. Good moments and bad moments. The feeling of loss and the feeling of gaining. And we do have. I do believe that we have been wonderfully made with an inner strength that at some point, if we can learn to get there, which is resilience,
Mm-hmm.
if we can go, if we give ourselves permission, to go through the processes and tackle that and go and get to that resilient character within us, then we can navigate through loss in a better way, and
Totally.
and have grace with ourselves, because sometimes, I mean, it's not easy, it's hard, but when we have grace with ourselves, and okay, today I'm not having the best of days, but you know what, others are also not having the best of days. I'm not the only one going through this, and recognizing that we're not the only one, that we're not alone,
Mm.
that we could have other people, which is very important to navigate loss, surrounding us, the right people that could sustain us during, that moment of heaviness and loss and pain. That is also crucial for
Yeah.
navigating.
I really resonated with what you said on initially when these things happen, when we lose someone and we feel this pain, it kind of blinds us, and we can get lost very easily. Uh, and this is why I feel like it's so important to also, as an individual, recognize that there's people around us that are experiencing these sorts of situations, and to be a support to others. And so I think that it's important for us to feel what we need to feel, to express what we're feeling during those times, and it is very easy to just put it aside and forget about it. But when you're thinking about it in the long term, it's just this big weight that you start accumulating, that sometimes can make you a more fragile person, can make you a person that just overreact to things because you have all of this emotion inside that needs to let out. And I thankfully, after my mother passed away, I always had my older brother. He was always that person that I would go to and that I would sit down with, and I would open myself to. And it really helped me to heal. It helped me to let out all these emotions that were occurring inside of me. And through that, I was also able to like open my eyes to wait, also acknowledge the lessons that this experience was leaving for me. I remember at the time I was a sophomore in high school, and my soccer coach, I remember, went to my house where I was living at the time and dropped off groceries. Like, he just opened his trunk, it was filled with groceries. And I remember just reflecting on that moment. I'm like, wow, at that lowest point of my life, there was people around me showing me that they were there, that I was not alone, and that gave me hope. It allowed me to move forward and see that there's more to life. That there's more. And so, yeah, expressing our emotions, I think, is so important, and is something that a lot of people take for granted, and don't apply it, because it is difficult to open yourself. It's difficult to be vulnerable, but that's why you have to be wise on who you're opening up yourself with as well, because not everyone offers that space.
Yes, definitely. What you're saying is so important because uh, being in that moment where you feel where you're blind, you can't really see clearly. Um, just asking for, open my eyes, and like I said, I'm a person of faith, and,
Yeah.
and that was my prayer. That was it. Open my eyes. I want to see. I want to see. I want to recognize, like you said, the people that surround me, that are there for that moment, because I do believe that people also surround us for special moments,
Yeah.
for transitional moments. And there's always somebody who's going to be surrounding you for that moment. But the key is to open your eyes,
Mm.
open up and see so you can recognize that help. And also that builds what you said, empathy, and closeness to people. But also I do believe in the power of gratitude.
Mm.
So another prayer for me was,
Yeah.
help me be grateful, even during this difficult time or through pain. Help me be grateful, and gratitude. It is so powerful how it can transform us, because it helps you see, okay, this is gone, or this person is not physically here with me anymore. But as you go through that process, that transition with gratitude, and you start, being grateful for the moments, you start being grateful for what was, and what is now, you know, um, I do think it has the power to heal,
Yeah.
because it helps us to move forward with less baggage, with less uh, weight, like you said. When we have so much weight within us, it's very difficult for us to move forward. But when we have gratitude and we say, okay, I have no control over this, because like I told you at the beginning, life is transitional. Sometimes we give in willingly, and sometimes it's taken away from us, without our control. And that's something we cannot change. But we can definitely, and we do have the power on how we're gonna not just react, but what's gonna become from that.
Mm.
How are we gonna live that, and who are we gonna become through that experience?
Yeah, I think it's powerful um, when we start approaching life that way. That when we understand that there's things outside of our control, and that there's things in our control, and when we start focusing in what's in our control, which is ourself, our being, and we start working on ourselves, because then you start realizing, oh, the more I work on myself, the more my reality changes, and the way
Mhm.
I experience life changes. And so I think sometimes we can fall into thinking that, yeah, that happiness comes from external things, but then we start realizing that external things can be taken away, that are only temporary.
Mhm.
And so it makes you look inside and see that our reality starts from within.
Exactly.
And yes, gratitude, it's been such an important part of my process of healing, and it's such an important part of my life now. And it's how I start my day. Every morning, that's how I start my day. And I thank God for another day. I thank for another opportunity, to be on this earth, because it really is a blessing.
Yes.
And um and so having that gratitude with me allows me to really live my life with more purpose, to live and enjoy all the moments I get, uh and other people I encounter, because now I'm not just seeing it like just another day. It's another day that you get to live and to experience life. And there's other people that today maybe didn't wake up because it was their time. So it's like, so it's experiencing that change of someone being there and then not being there, seeing how fragile life is, really opens your eyes.
Yes, yes, I believe so. And the beautiful thing about gratitude also is that, you remember how I told you that we do not understand life, except we see it through that rear view
Yeah,
mirror.
yeah,
So in my case, I learned to be more grateful, just seeing my life from that perspective. Uh, Things that I did not understand 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And now I see how everything, just was working out throughout the process. That gives me confidence today, because, just going back and seeing, okay, I was not in control, but somebody else was in control,
hmm
you know, and things worked out. And that moment that was very difficult and painful was preparing me for something else. So, for example, when I had that experience with trying to commit suicide,
yeah,
um, that actually prepared me so I could work with women back in my country who were going through the same thing.
mm,
And, that empathy and just saying like from your heart, I do know what it feels like, you know, because I've been there. And that prepares you for a purpose in life, you know. Um, Not being able to have another biological child was preparing me for our second child, you know, and it was coming in a different way, in a beautiful
Yeah.
way, you know. So now I see back and I'm like, you know, everything that I had to go through with my surgeries and everything, and the outcome of not being able to have another biological child, well, thank you, God.
Yeah.
Otherwise, our second child would not be here with us, you know, Rafael.
Yeah.
So when you see it like that, you change your perspective, you know, and you start seeing life from a different angle and you say, hey, you know, there's always a purpose. And when we open ourselves, our hearts and our minds, and, you know, just to welcome and say, okay, it's okay. I don't understand it today. But at some point, I might understand it, but for sure, this is preparing me for something else. And there's a purpose behind this. And, you know, I do believe that life and God um, has a great purpose for each one of us, you know.
Totally.
You know, and one of my best friends, she was abused. She lost, and talking about loss, because loss,
Yeah.
you know, it's so broad. You know,
Yeah.
throughout our lives, we're going to be losing people. We're going to be losing things. We're going to be losing experiences. This friend of mine, she lost her childhood, if you want to see it like that, because she was sexually abused,
Yeah.
you know, when she was 4 years old. So, you know, all that beautiful childhood was taken away from her, you know. But that very experience, so painful, prepared her to become um, someone that helps women who have gone through the same thing, you know, who have been abused. And I cannot tell you the difference that she makes in other women's life, you know, and how she has become a light for this people. And so she looks back and she's like, you know what? I didn't ask for that. I had no control. It hurt me, and there's a scar because sometimes we carry our scars.
Mm.
And I'm going to tell you something very beautiful about that scar, the scars, because when you see life that way, you start, you know, living a meaningful life. So not everything goes to loss. You know, um, not everything is thrown away. And in the most part, it depends on us how we're going to do it. And we can. You know, you are an example. I'm sharing this experience
Yeah.
with me. I'm sharing my friend's experience, you know, and so it is possible. And I want to encourage people you know, to have that faith and that hope. You use that word,
Hope.
hope, you know, that yes, life is going to throw things at you and it's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. You know, it's worth it and it has a purpose. This world would not be the same without Tulio, this world, or myself, you
Yeah.
know, or my friend. It wouldn't be, you know, and we can impact so many other lives through our stories, through our experience, you know, and that's a beautiful thing about it. You know, we're all just connected.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really beautiful, and I think when we open ourselves to that, when we open ourselves to see that, in my case, God gives us certain experiences in our lives that at the time can seem difficult, but that then actually serve us, then we can start using those experiences to serve others and to help others. You know, whenever I sit down with someone and, you know, they share with me a story, and specifically when it's something about loss, my ability to empathize with them, it's much greater because I've been there, and I can share with them, hey, there is hope. This experience, even though it may seem very dark right now, this is gonna help you grow. And I had a customer once at my job that she walked in, I remember, and she was, you can tell she had just came from crying. You could show she was just in a very low state. And as I'm helping her out and we're talking, I asked her, like, what's wrong? And she tells me that her nephew back in Colombia was just killed. And in that moment, I just asked myself, what can I do to serve her? You know, what can I do in this situation to at least give her some light, give her some hope that this is only a moment in your life, that this is maybe teaching you something. So I just thought to myself, and I told her, hey, I know it may seem very difficult right now, but I think God has a purpose for everything. And I'll tell you from my experience that these experiences, even though it may seem like a bomb just dropping the smoke everywhere, eventually, you will be able to see a way out, and you're gonna see that you're gonna come out stronger. And just seeing her eyes and her body language change, it was very fulfilling and very healing, not only for her but for me. So it's very interesting that when we also help others, we're helping ourselves, just like this cycle of healing.
Definitely. I think it's a very important phase for healing, when we, because sometimes we could be so much into ourselves, into our pain, that it blocks everything out, so that keeps us in the same place, what do you call it?
Stagnant.
Yeah, stagnant, and enslaved
Mm.
into the pain, to pain. But when we start, and that word serve, we're here to serve.
Yeah.
We're here to be light, even if we feel that our light, it's así chiquitita, like very, very dim, but still light, So when we serve others, when we give ourselves to others in any way, and it could be serving, it doesn't have to be something like, oh my gosh, just giving somebody a smile,
Mm-hmm.
smiling.
Yeah.
It,
It's
it's
powerful.
amazing. It's powerful. It's powerful. That just happened to me last week here at MDC. I was walking through my car to my car, and I see one of the ladies, the janitors,
Yeah.
and she's so nice. She always tells me every morning, "Hola, mi reina. Hola, mi niña." And that day I saw her, she was different, and I approached her and I'm like, "Hi," and I gave her a hug, and she's like, "Hi, hola, mi reina," and she started crying. I'm like, "¿Qué
Mm.
pasa?" And she's like, "I think I need to go back to my country," and it really broke my heart. And
Wow.
just listening to her and just hugging her, and all I could say was, "I'll pray for you. I will
Yeah.
hold you in prayer, and God is going to give you the way out of this." The next day I saw her and she was like, "Thank you for your words yesterday." So,
Wow.
I'm sharing this because
Yeah.
we have the power to bring something light to other people, just, with small gestures. So when we serve others, just like that, we can actually help them transition, out of that
Mm.
space of where they feel that they can't even move, just step by step. Love is very powerful,
Yeah.
and kindness is very powerful, and it's crucial for this process, that we're kind and we love ourselves, so we're able to love and be kind to others.
I think that doing small gestures is so impactful, and whenever I started implementing that in my life, as little as just walking with a smile and acknowledging the people around me when I'm walking, I think it really shifted like my state. It is incredible. I did want to ask you, since you're a life coach, so I'm sure you've encountered different individuals going through different stages in their life. But have you ever encountered and coach someone who's dealing with loss?
Yes, yes, definitely. Losing a loved one, uh, or losing something, material.
Mm.
Yes, I have. And, experiences, like I said, are very personal.
Yeah.
And the way we live that process it's so personal. It's so unique.
Yeah.
There's not a blueprint that we're going to say, it's going to go here and here. I know there are 5 stages of
Mm-hmm.
loss.
Five
Uh,
stage, yes, 5 stages to loss. I actually have
to,
them here. It's so the first one is denial,
mm-hmm,
then it's anger, then the other one was bargaining, which I was like bargaining, but I saw the meaning. It was like seeking for impossible solutions. That's
mm-hmm.
what bargaining means. Then depression, and then lastly acceptance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it doesn't always
Mm-hmm.
happen in that order.
Totally.
For you,
Totally.
you could be anger. Something is taken away from you, or someone is taken away from you, and the first thing you experience is, you're mad. You're that anger. So that is something that I learned working with others and with myself. that in different processes of loss that I've had personally, the order is just, very different, and just acknowledging that, and that helps us. I'm going to use that word again, have grace with us and be patient, because the process could take, some processes could take longer than others. And, and, and the experience itself, it's never going to be the same, from one person to another, or from one experience in the same person to another experience. Like I said, throughout your whole life, you're going to be losing. Life is like that. It's always moving. So there are beginnings and endings in our lives. And when we see it that way, well, I think it helps us to navigate through those losses. For example, I had a friend. Her loss was a marriage. And she was in denial, and then she was like, "But I'm not angry." She was just like self-blaming, But then she went back to denial, and then she went through anger, and then the bargain part, she was like, "Okay, I promise, if I do this, and just trying to, do that transaction, to make things better." And at the end, well, the marriage ended, but now, curiously, their relationship is so much better. And there's so much harmony. I'm not pro divorce,
Yeah,
I want to make that clear, but their relationship at the end was so much better, and for the environment, for themselves, and for their family, for their kids, and it was a learning experience. And she said, in my heart, there's always going to be that part where, I lost it, but now I'm trying to see, because I'm still working on it, I'm trying to see what I can gain, or what good can I, take from this, or transform it into something better, And that's very important, because in her case, it's something that it's not done alone, They're both working on it to make it work for the family, Because she's like, okay, we lost the marriage, but we didn't lose the family. We're still a family in our hearts, and we want the best for each other, and we want to support each other, even though we're not together, anymore as a couple. So losses are, it could be anything. It could be a job. It could be a status. It could be a person.
Yeah, and it could be. I'm thinking right now of a friend who moved from Peru and migrated here to Florida, and I know he was having a lot of difficulty in that transition. Leaving friends behind, leaving family behind, and I've even met people who leave their country and come here alone and really don't have anybody, and that's another process which is important to be conscious of how you're navigating through that, because it can, I'm sure it can feel very lonely, it can feel very challenging to be that. I wouldn't be able to talk because I've never experienced that, but I'm aware people experience that, and I've came across people that experience that. And the best thing that I feel like I can do in those moments is let them know that I'm there. Let them know, hey, you have a new friend, or hey, if you need anything, you can call me. So always like being in that state of service, I think is important. One time I gave a talk last year. I gave a talk at a high school sharing like my story and how I navigated through grief. And I had the teacher ask me at the end. She brought up how she has a friend who lost someone, and that she wanted to know how she can best support her and be there for her. And this goes back to what you said about, we don't, the way we support others doesn't have to be significant sometimes. Sometimes somebody just needs us just to be there present, just to listen to them, just to, we don't necessarily need to give them advice, but just you being there for your friend, sitting down and just listening to her and just being present as she's experiencing this is enough.
Yeah.
If they ask for advice, if they ask what you think, then go ahead and give it. But I think sometimes people try to force advice, try to force like, hey, and sometimes just being there is enough,
That is so true. I had a friend who lost a loved one last year, and a parent. I couldn't tell this friend, I know what you're going through because I have not gone through that, you know. I know the feeling of losing and I know the pain it causes,
Mm.
but I don't know exactly what it feels like to lose a parent, you know. And like you said, many times trying to help others and trying to show our love to others, we could actually um, maybe not do it in the best way,
Mm.
you know. And so I did ask, I did ask, how can I help you? And this person said, I just want you to be there. You know, I don't want you to tell me anything. I don't want you to do anything. I just want to know that you're there. You know, and it's important that sometimes those actions could be very significant to the person. You know, sometimes we feel it's the other person who feels I'm not doing enough, but maybe it is enough at that moment. You know, and maybe at other moments that person's going to ask you for an advice. You know,
Yeah.
but maybe like right there, he just or she just needs for you to sit down and just know your presence,
Mm.
you know, and that could be enough for that moment. So,
I had a student once ask me, "Does grief ever end?" And I told him, "No. Grief is something that we're gonna experience through our life. But what does change is the weight, the meaning that we give to it. Because definitely the way that I feel now compared to when my mother first passed away, it's significantly different. I've come more to the acceptance state. I've come more to realizing that weight. You know, yeah, yes, I miss my mother, and yes, there's days that I miss her more than others. Um, but I also I'm thankful for the time that I had her, and I can also acknowledge how this experience has also built me into the person I am now. So yes, grief, the way I guess of it, the meaning you give to it changes. But grief, I think, is a lifelong process, and it's
mhm.
just knowing how to navigate through it, to live with it.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
knowing, you know, when you lose something, nothing's going to be the same.
Hmm.
It's not, you know, it's a reality. And I think learning to accept that without resisting, because sometimes we have that resistance, you know, we resist change. So we're going to resist loss, you know, especially when it's something so dearly to us. But knowing that it's never going to be the same, but life is never going to be the same. You know, talking to you as a mom, and I think we had this conversation a couple of days ago. You know, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, so one of my sons he's 26, and the other one is 16, and life is not going to be the same as it was when they were younger. You know, our relationship was different, so some things were
Mm.
lost, but other things were gained. What happens, you know,
Mm.
when somebody is not physically with you anymore, when we learn to cherish those moments together, and what you said, you know, she's always going to be a part of you,
Yeah.
of the person you have become, and just knowing, okay, it's not going to be the same, but there's one thing that I do think it's so powerful is how do I honor this
Hmm.
loss and this gain and this person with my life, because I'm still here, you know. And you talked about it, you know, being purposeful with your life. So if I'm still here, it's because there is a purpose. So how can I honor that person, that experience with my life today, with what I do today, you know? And I think that is key for helping us see beyond that loss and seeing purpose in that loss,
Mm.
doing something with it.
Many things come to mind as you talk, but one right now is when you talk about the yes, through life we lose, but then we gain. At the end of my PowerPoint, when I share my story, I show a picture of my baby sister Grace, which is 2 years old, and I talk about the day that I went to the hospital to see her when she was born, because it was a very symbolic moment for me, because I remember when I stepped into the hospital, like the last time I had been in the hospital was when my mother passed away, but now I was here to see life. And so it was like a blessing totally. And it showed me, yes, sometimes we lose things, but sometimes we also gain. And right now, my baby sister, I mean, she's one of the greatest source of love that I have, and it's incredible. So I totally agree with that statement.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You mentioned something, going back to what you just mentioned about transition into another country. That is something that we are going through,
Yeah.
and it's not easy. It's much harder when you don't have anybody, from your family with you. It's very difficult. And I remember telling my youngest son, because that was a process for him that it was too hard, you know, and he went through it, with so much pain. It's like I left my friends, my pet, my house, my room, the people I love, the things I used to love, to do back in our country,
Yeah.
and I figured, okay, it is also painful for me, but I have to be there for him as well. Sometimes we need to navigate through that as well. And for us, it was so important to talk about it and say, hey, you know what? I miss this. You know what? Me too. And it's okay. It's okay if we miss it, because it's not going to be the same. We don't have it here with us anymore. But just helping him see, start seeing this as a new opportunity, a new chapter in your book, and just give it a chance and see where it takes you. And so transitioning to another country, to another school, making new friends, and recently I had a conversation with him, and we pray a lot. We pray every day together, as a family. We do a small prayer, and listening to his prayer, he said, God, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for my new friends and my new teachers, and just going back to that, I'm like, I was praying myself, and I was like, thank you, God, because you're helping him through this process, and there is always hope in the process of loss, and transition. Yes, it's difficult. Leaving behind, it's very hard, but I think when we open ourselves to a new horizon, a new chance, a new opportunity, a new chapter, it helps us. And we close the other one with gratitude. That's another thing, It's like closing cycles with gratitude and say, God, I don't understand, but I give it to you, and thank you. Thank you for what I had. But I also thank you in advance for what's going to come. I don't know what it is, or how difficult it's going to be, but I want to thank you in advance for that. I think that gives us not just hope, but also a new way of seeing things around us. It wakes us up. It opens our eyes because we start seeing new opportunities. And what we focus on expands. If I focus on new opportunities, you're going to see them everywhere. It's like when I wanted to get pregnant, I saw a bunch of pregnant women all over. I'm like, what is this? Everybody's pregnant. No, not everybody's pregnant. I wanted to have a child. What I focused on expand.
It was that I wanted to kind of highlight like resistance that it can occur, and that it's normal that at the beginning it's hard to face that reality. It's very shocking at times, these experiences.
Life is a process itself. We're never done until we're called. So we keep learning, we keep growing, through these experiences, and just seeing it from a different perspective helps us as well, and like I said, loss itself is an experience of growth, and sometimes we need to be trimmed, and it sounds,
Yeah.
and by being trimmed, my mother, she loves trees and flowers and everything, and I see the way she trims. And I think about, sometimes God trims our life so that we can, como se dice, frondoso, blossom.
Blossom. Yeah.
And we don't always see it like that. But there's a chance for us, to get to that state. And I do believe that throughout this process, the more we share with others as well, and just, this is our story.
Yeah.
And your story is the best story you're ever going to live and tell and share, with its ups and downs and good chapters and difficult chapters, but this is your story. This is our story. And part of that story is, this this process of building our character. Resilience can only be built through difficult experience. There is no other way. We cannot build, or we cannot strengthen that resilience within us if everything went, perfectly well.
I agree. I agree. If you had to give advice to someone, that is experiencing loss, what would you tell them?
I think the first thing I would say is be patient with yourself. It is a process. And it's okay if you don't understand it right now. It's okay if you feel sad. Have grace with yourself. Like I said, I'm somebody who believes in God.
Yeah.
So, this is very interesting because I have seen what it is to go through the process of loss without belief. And, somebody who does believe. And it does help. So I would say, have that patience. It's, for me, having patience with somebody, in this case ourselves, is an act of love. And it's gonna hurt. Yes, it's gonna hurt. But transitions, there is something on the other side. There is always light. There is always hope, and there's always people around you. Just, if you're a person who believes, a person of faith, in God or, in something greater than us, pray for your eyes to be opened, and pray for your heart to be open to receive whatever it is that, it's there for you through that process of loss. And, just honor it, embrace it, but don't stay there. Don't stay try not to stay. And with this, I know we've talked about, it's different in times for people, how long it's going to take. But
Yeah.
what I mean by don't stay there is, at some point, start taking those steps, whatever it is, that will lead you into that transition to another part, where you're going to find that purpose for your loss, because there's always something.
Yeah, I think I think faith is such a gift, and more when we're experiencing such difficult times in our life, because it's like that light at the end of the tunnel.
The loss,
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's very broad, and it's so personal how we live it, and so many learning experiences, or so much we could gain from it. Yes, resistance, we resist it, but when we teach ourselves, that's another thing. We're always learning, and when we have that learner's mind and heart, we are able to teach ourselves to see life differently.
Yeah, I think the point about being patient with ourselves was also very important, because we tend to always want to help out others first, and offer stuff to others first, and not prioritize our own health, our own well-being. And so I think we have to have, as we have empathy for others, have empathy for ourselves, and in the sense that we are human beings too, and that if we truly want to love others and serve others with our full potential, then we need to focus within ourselves first, so we can really offer that love.
Yeah, we cannot give to others what we don't have or give to ourselves. I actually learned that lesson on a flight. The flight attendant was going, if the loss of pressure and the mask, you put on yours first, and then you put it to the person that needs help. I was traveling with my youngest son, and I was like, forget it, man. I'm going to put it on to him first. And then several years later, I was actually preparing a speech for a group of women, and that came to my mind, going back to the rear view of understanding life. And I'm like, you know what? It's true. How am I going to be able to help my son if I pass out? So yes, it is important to take care of ourselves, and sometimes taking care of ourselves will mean taking care of others as well. Because when I give to others, that comes, back to me.
You receive. Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I heard that quote about putting on your mask first before the rest, I was actually going through a breakup, and this girl's dad told me this during the time, because he was aware that we were like experiencing differences and that we were going through this process, and he told me, "Look, man, if you were in an airplane and the airplane was going down, who are you gonna put the mask on first, yourself or your family?" And I was like, my family. I was like, you got to put it on yourself. You know, you have to save yourself so you can save the rest. And, basically telling me that in that moment, if for me to reflect, if the best thing that I could do was, move forward from that relationship, then, then you've got to do it. And yeah, it was definitely like, to this day, stuck with me, because evidently after that experience, I started to grow a lot more, and
that's another loss experience.
Yeah.
Loss experience that you went through.
Totally. Totally. And see, I say that after that I grow, and I'm sure that not only I have grown after that, but I'm sure she has as well. Darling, thank you so much for being here today and joining me. I think this conversation was very, very enriching, and I hope that it can touch whoever's watching. I think that's the biggest essence, the biggest purpose that I have with this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Well, guys, stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next episode.